And joining me now is Donald Trump's new convention manager, Paul Manafort, a one-time delegate wrangler for President Gerald Ford and campaign manager for Bob Dole, who's been brought into this campaign to stop this delegate bleeding. Mr. Manafort, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you.
Let me start with what a Cruz official claimed to me this weekend, that there were 144 different delegate selection events yesterday in 11 states, and they were stunned that essentially outside of Michigan, the Trump campaign was nowhere. Is that a fair assessment?
Not at all. First of all, Alabama, they caucused this weekend, and we've got all the committee spots, the convention committee spots have been assigned. In Michigan, as he correctly said, where they made a real effort, they failed, and in fact, we wiped him out. He's got no committee appointments out of Michigan. And in Nevada, preview of coming attractions, Clark County went overwhelmingly for Donald Trump, and they have the majority of the delegates to the state convention later in this process, and you're going to see Ted Cruz get skunked in Nevada.
But you acknowledge that they've been outgunning the Trump campaign on these weekend events?
I acknowledge that we weren't playing in Colorado, and they did. I acknowledge that they've taken an approach to some of the county conventions where they've taken a scorched earth policy, and they don't care about the party. If they don't get what they want, they blow it up. That's not going to work. And in fact, it's all secondary games, because when you're talking about delegates, you have to distinguish between actual delegates or Trojan delegates, which are people that are committed to support someone on the first ballot, regardless of who they're for.
And you have been very outspoken to saying, look, what Cruz is doing is going to be moot because you guys are going to win this on the first ballot. In fact, you claim you will clinch this nomination by mid-May, that you won't need California to put you over the top. How do you do that?
No, I didn't say we'd clinch it. I said we'd be the presumptive nominee.
Which means you would have the number. That means
which means you'd see the path.
You won't be crossing the line.
We've got to go through to June. We've got to wait till the process is done. But I'm confident we have several ways through June 7th to go over 1237, and not counted in that at all are any of these unbound delegates who are getting selected, many of whom I feel pretty good about.
Now, look, there's been some talk about what's going on inside the campaign. Are you running this campaign now? Is that the fairest way to look at it?
Donald Trump is running this campaign, and I'm working directly for Donald Trump, but I'm working with the whole team as well. And a lot of what's being talked about is much ado about nothing. Yes, there's a transition. It's a natural transition. Trump was doing very well on a model that made sense, but now as the campaign has gotten to the end stages, a more traditional campaign has to take place, and Trump recognized that and is now reaching out, not just with me, but with others as well that you'll start seeing come in.
Now, Donald Trump has hired you because he says he needs an insider to help him who's experiencing this. But some could argue it's been a long time since you've been a Washington insider. You yourself have said that. Do you know these delegates? Do you the selection process may be the same from 96 or 76? Do you know these people? Because some people say no.
You'd be surprised who's been calling me over the last week and where they're from. And do I know the 25, 30-year-old delegates? No. Do I know the people who push buttons in a lot of these states? Yes. But that's not even the point. There's a lot of residual support for Donald Trump out there that just hasn't been tapped. Whether it's me or somebody else, it's the process that matters. If you know how to use the process, the support is there.
I want to talk about some of the methods you're going to use to try to cajole these delegates. Let me play something your former business partner, Roger Stone, said. Get you to react to it.
We're going to have protests, demonstrations. We will disclose the hotels and the room numbers of those delegates who are directly involved in the steal.
Appropriate rhetoric?
I'm not giving them my hotel room.
Okay, so do you sort of
Roger is not an official part of the campaign.
Did he bring you in?
No.
Okay.
In fact, not at all. I came in a totally different way. I've known Trump for 30 years. And so when somebody started talking about the need to bring in additional people to deal with this process, friends of his who were not at all from the political realm even, he listened and then he reached out.
What is fair game to win a delegate? Is threatening a fair game? Is threats a fair game?
It's not my style. It's not Donald Trump's style.
What is?
I'll tell you, but it is Ted Cruz's style, and that's going to wear thin very fast.
You think he's threatening delegates?
Well, he's threatening that you go to these county conventions and you see the Gestapo tactics, the scorched earth tactics.
Gestapo tactics?
They are.
That's a strong word.
Well, you look at. We're going to be filing several protests because the reality is they are not playing by the rules, but. Frankly, that's the side game, because the only game I'm focusing on right now is getting delegates. And the games that have happened, even this past weekend, are not important to the long-term game of how do we get to 1237.
But is he, I guess, what is fair game in getting a delegate? Is paying for their convention costs? Is it golf club memberships? What's fair and unfair in this? What's ethical, what's unethical?
Well, there's the law, and then there's ethics, and then there's getting the votes. I'm not going to get into what tactics to use. I happen to think the best way we're going to get delegates is to have Donald Trump be exposed to delegates, let the delegates hear what he says. He's done very well so far in putting himself in position by virtue of communicating. You know, the key is, I think, for delegates coming up, especially the unbound delegates, is the electability question. And right now we're in a fight, and this fight is, causes the negatives to go up for all the candidates. But there's no question in my mind. There's not one state you can look at that Romney lost in 2012 that Cruz can win. Not one. But Trump changes the whole map. As we get into those arguments, which is the end game of the end game, that persuasion starts to have an impact.
You have some controversial clients in your past, some current, some in the past. Has Mr. Trump asked you to stop working for certain clients, stop doing work in Ukraine if it's against America's national security?
Well, the work I was doing in Ukraine was to help Ukraine get into Europe, and we succeeded. But I'm not working for any clients right now other than Mr. Trump.
And are you going to make a promise in the future that if he's president, you'll be careful what clients you take?
I'm always careful what clients I take.
All right, I will leave it there. Paul Manafort, new convention manager, thanks for coming on. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.